All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we might have others join us along the way. But thank you again for joining us for our Explore Simpson series tonight. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the honors program with Dr. Katie Smith, who is the director of Simpson College Honors, and then Natasha Ship, who is a current honors student. And then again, my name is Kylie, and I work in the admissions office. We also have Dave on here. He also works in the admissions office. So thank you so much for joining us and introducing yourself in the chat. If you are just joining us, make sure to mute yourself so we can make sure everybody can hear us clearly and there's no background interruptions. But introduce yourself in the chat with your name, your hometown, and what you're thinking about studying. So this is our agenda for the night. I'll be giving some brief admissions information, and then Katie and Natasha will talk more about our honors program, and then we will leave time for questions. Throughout this entire presentation, if you have any questions at all during it, feel free to type them in the chat box and we'll answer them at the end. But at the end, you can type them in the chat box or ask them over the audio. It's up to you, but feel free to type them in as you think of them. So what are the next steps in the admissions process? So I'll be talking a little bit, just some brief basic information about Simpson College, what we're all about, and then give you some action steps you can take about our admissions process and things you should be thinking about, things you should be doing, things you should submit, all that kind of stuff. So just to start off, we are a private liberal arts college, and we have about 1,200 full-time undergraduate students on campus. And so that leaves us with about a 12-to-1 student to faculty ratio. Average class sizes might be around 20 students. You might have a little more, but that's generally what our class sizes are. So you will have faculty that know your name and are very interested and invested in your studies and your future, that will help you find internships and research opportunities. So having those small class sizes really, really helps with your academic success for sure. 100% of our students do receive financial aid in the form of scholarships and grants. So every single student at Simpson does receive scholarships or grants. And so you will receive a merit scholarship based on your GPA. And so that's something all students can expect from Simpson. So again, 100% of our students receive scholarships and financial aid. We have over 80 majors, minors, pre-professional programs, and 99% of our graduates within 6 months of graduating are either employed or in graduate school or in service like the military. And so we have a really, really high placement rate that really exceeds people's expectations in regards to academics and preparing for your future. We also have excellent internship programs, as I spoke about before. Since your faculty will know you as a person and know your goals, they will help you find internships, as well as we have a whole career readiness success department on campus. So they will help you find internships and research opportunities, help you, write your resume, cover letter, all that kind of stuff, career fairs. So we really set you up for success at Simpson, and our proximity to Des Moines helps with that as well. We're 12 miles from Des Moines, and so one of the largest job markets in the state, and so lots of access to those opportunities that give you that real life experience to add to your academic learning. So what should you do next? You should set up a meeting with your admissions counselor, either virtually or on campus. We are doing on-campus visits again. So you can go online and schedule a visit on campus, or you can meet with us over Zoom like this. It's up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. A lot of students that are out of state, the virtual visits help a lot, being able to meet your admissions counselor and get more in-depth information until you are able to come on campus. So you can do that online. And so that would be the first step. And I'm sure you've got some texts or calls or emails from your admissions counselor. Otherwise, when you schedule a visit, it'll automatically place you with who your admissions counselor is if you don't know who they are already. And then also reach out to your favorite teachers, coaches, community leaders for letter of recommendation. If you are planning on applying, a recommendation is not required, but we highly encourage it just because it will give us a better look into the type of student you are, the things you're involved in. And so highly recommend reaching out to any of those people and asking if they will write a letter of recommendation for you to include in your application. Our 2021 application is live now, so you can apply. We don't require an essay, and it is free to apply. So there is an optional essay or personal statement you can write. Again, we highly encourage it just so we can get a better idea of who you are, what your goals are, what you hope to accomplish in your 4 years at Simpson. And so highly encourage you to write that personal statement, not required though, but it is free. It's online. It takes about 15-20 minutes to complete. It's fairly quick. So you can apply anytime. And then check out our fall events calendar. We are planning to have some events on campus, hopefully, eventually. If not, we will be doing more virtual events like this to make sure we can be accessible to all students. So make sure you check out our website, follow us on social media to stay up to date on all the events we are planning, but we'll have many fall events available this year, whether on campus or virtually. So make sure you check that out. And we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. So make sure you follow us there. Use the hashtag #OneSimpson or click on that hashtag and see what everybody's up to, whether it's current students, alumni. That is the hashtag we're using to keep in touch with everybody. And I will now pass it over to Dr. Katie Smith and Natasha.
Thank you, Kylie. Well, as Kylie mentioned, again, my name is Katie Smith, and I'm excited that you've decided to join us tonight. And I'd love to tell you a little bit more about our honors program here at Simpson. And we're fortunate enough to have Natasha with us as well, who will be a senior in the program. In addition to my role here in the honors program, I also teach in the Department of Sports Science and Health Education. So if anyone is interested in studying medicine, pre-physical therapy, occupational therapy, PA, strength and conditioning, health and wellness in any shape or form, I teach in that program as well too. So we'll go ahead and get started and dive into this program a little bit more. Just to kind of give you a general overview of what our program is about, our program is very unique, to say it lightly. If you have looked at any other programs or at any other schools, you probably are very familiar with a model of an honors program that provides honors sections of typical courses on campuses. And so what I mean is an honors section of your biology 100 course, an honors section of your philosophy 100 course, right? And then you have another section that's open to all students that are not in the honors program. That's not at all what our honors program is like. Our program is very interdisciplinary by nature, and our courses are designed specifically for our program. So we really want to encourage our students in these classes to think beyond really any type of problem or question that you've ever had to think about for the purposes of your major, right? So these are classes that you typically wouldn't take just for the general education program or in your major. Like I said, they are specifically designed with specific questions in mind to be able to help you bridge the gap between what you learn in college and what really is going on in the real world, but outside of your major. So hopefully your major is doing that as well, and it will if you attend Simpson. But we want you to also be that very well-rounded citizen that prepares you to go out into the world with a well-rounded education coming from a liberal arts institution to kind of tackle those big picture questions. So let's advance to the next one. If we talk a little bit about how you're eligible to participate in this program, there's a couple of different things that we look at. So GPA is one of them. We look for our students to have at least a 3.5 cumulative GPA in high school or higher. If your test scores are available, because we are test optional, as Kylie mentioned, we will look at those, but they are not the end all be all, okay? So you'll see in some of the application materials that it's a score of a 28 or above on the ACT, or it converts that to an SAT score. But that does not mean that if you have a 26 or a 24 that you're not gonna make it into the program, okay? That's just one piece of the puzzle. But if it's on there and it's at least a 28, that will be helpful. But we also want to make sure that the students in the program have a lot of extracurricular involvement and are very well-rounded, because the student that is involved in many different areas of their community and in their school is going to be the student that's going to be able to contribute at a higher level to the conversations and the types of courses that we have in our honors program. So when it goes back to your college-wide application that you submit, when Kylie talked about that eligible or optional personal statement, there are some optional questions about what you are participating in at your high school, what types of honors and accomplishments and achievements you've done and received. I highly encourage you, if you're considering being in the honors program, to fill that out, even though it's optional, because that's the information that our Honors Council looks at when we are reviewing applications. And so let's go to the next slide. If you want to graduate with honors, then what it looks like in terms of completing the program is that each student is asked to complete 5 honors courses. One of them is very simple because it will be a course that you are going to take regardless of whether or not you are in the honors program. It will just be an honors version of that course. So every student in their first semester on campus is going to take an SC Honors 101. That's a first intro to college type course. Half of it is content-based, half of it is helping you understand what Simpson College is all about and what resources we have to help you be successful here on campus. The benefit of being in the honors program is right away from the first day that you step on campus, you are going to meet a whole cohort of other honors students. And so what's helpful is that when you go into your other courses on campus, you are going to identify, oh, so if I'm Gabriella, I'm going to see Delaney across the room in my Chemistry 101 class, and I'm going to say, oh, I know Delaney is in my Honors SC, which tells me that she likely is a like-minded thinker just like I am, and she sets high expectations, and she goes after those expectations. So if you are on the call tonight, I ask yourself to think about a group project that you participated in school. How many of you have had to tackle the bulk of the workload for that group project? I see a couple nods, right? So many times we have different expectations than some of our peers. We're trying to achieve at a very high level. You don't have that problem with peers not accomplishing at that higher level when you're in an honors class. So back to my example, maybe Gabriella and Delaney want to pair up in that Chem 101 class as partners or lab partners because they know each other from their honors class, okay? Just one example. And then you would choose 4 other courses throughout your time at Simpson that have an honors designation in order to complete your 5 courses. Those 4 other classes are also going to likely help you meet the general education requirements of the college. So one of the most common questions that I get is, I want to go on to law school or I want to go on to medical school. How am I going to be able to fit in my major requirements, my general education requirements, my graduate school requirements, and the honors program? The nice part about it is that usually these other courses are going to be blended into requirements for the general education program. You do have to complete your honors courses with at least a B- or higher. And then you will complete an honors capstone. So capstone project, you are also going to complete for every major. That's going to look different by every major. Our capstone is relatively small. It's just 1 credit because most of our students are so involved in other areas of campus. They're either double majors, some are triple majors, some are a single major, but there are lots of different clubs and leadership positions on campus or a sport. So they don't necessarily have room in their schedule to take another 4 credit capstone course. And so ours is a 1 credit that you take in your last semester. And then similar to the necessary requirements to be accepted into the program as far as a GPA, we do have to have our students maintain at least a 3.3 GPA or higher once they get to Simpson, and that's reviewed at the end of each semester. So let's talk a little bit about why you might want to consider participating in the honors program. Our courses are very engaged. So when I go back to the purpose of the program and how it's really set up, it's set up to tackle these big real world questions, right? We want to have these intentional connections to the world outside of our classroom. And you can't be an engaged citizen in the world that you're about to enter if you don't practice that engaged learning style in the classroom. That's very similar to a lot of our classes here on Simpson with and without the honors program, but it's going to be at a much higher level and even more advanced in depth in those thought processes in the honors courses. We really want you to kind of think about how can you analyze these problems from very different perspectives. And so those different perspectives might be because one faculty member has multiple disciplines to draw back on. So just to give you an example from myself, I taught a course in the honors program. I'm an exercise physiologist, but I'm also a registered dietitian. So I can draw on personal training and exercise and wellness experience, but I can also draw on when I worked in children's hospitals and I worked in long-term medical care facilities. So I can kind of bring both of those areas. It could also be an honors course where multiple faculty members from different majors or disciplines are teaching the same course. And so they're bringing their different areas of expertise into the same classroom. And as I mentioned before, there's just a great reward, both socially and intellectually, from being able to answer these questions and have these deeper conversations with a like-minded learning community. And so Natasha, I'm going to ask you to speak for a little bit here and say if you could say a few words kind of about why you think other students should consider participating in the honors program.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, my name is Natasha. I am a senior here at Simpson studying political science and applied philosophy with the honors program. And one of the things that I've most appreciated about the honors program is the ability to meet students from all different disciplines at Simpson. So building that community outside of your own major is really important, such a small school. And it makes answering these problems about the world and all these different social problems that we're addressing in classes so much more interesting, because you have students from a biology major, a chemistry major coming in to talk about environmental issues, where I might have more of a political, ethical lens on those kinds of things, but being able to go back to those roots of the scientific problems is so interesting to me. And being able to take those classes outside of my major has really just broadened my understanding of the world, especially when we're making friendships with those conversations as well. It's so refreshing to be able to go into any class and know that I have honors students to be able to do those group projects with, and to know that my education is going to be really firm and have a broader understanding than maybe the rest of the class is going to get. And then to be able to do presentations in those classes and to help educate the rest of my peers on those things that I've just learned myself it's really rewarding. Being in the honors program is definitely probably the most rewarding thing that I've done at Simpson, just in terms of being able to expand myself and also learn from my peers, which is really great.
Thanks, Natasha. So let's take a look at some of these classes that we've talked about so far. On this slide now, you're going to see a list of some of the courses that we have offered. We are entering our 4th year of our honors program at Simpson. So it's still a relatively young program, which actually works to your advantage, because that means that we are still developing a lot of new courses, and we still have a lot of faculty members that haven't yet taught in the program on campus that are eager to participate because of the great success that we've had in the courses that have ran so far. So a couple that I want to highlight. The first one is Debating U.S. Policy and Cybersecurity. So that course was actually taught by our speech and debate coach on campus. And he's going to be repeating a similar version of that course next spring called Debating Education Policy. So Summer, you mentioned that you're thinking about studying education. That could be an example of a course that won't necessarily count for the education major, but in the honors program, only you are going to have access to that, not all other education majors. If anyone is a Harry Potter fan, that's a very popular course on campus as well, Harry Potter and the Liberal Arts. The picture that you see on the screen is an example of a project from the class called Choking on Plastic. So it was taught by a religion professor, and they looked at the ethics around our plastic use. And so what you see there on the screen is actually a demonstration of what the students and the teacher collected for their plastic use in just 1 week. And they put that on display in our student center to try to draw awareness to the amount of plastic that we use. Natasha, you were in that class, correct?
I can unmute myself. Yeah, I was. And actually, that's probably my favorite honors class that I've taken, even the Harry Potter one, which is kind of hard to beat by a lot of students' measures. But that was a week's worth of plastic from a group of, I think, 9 of us who are already pretty eco-conscious people, but that's all the plastic that we use from various, whether it was in Kent Campus Center, which is where we displayed that, or outside restaurants. And actually that class brought about quite a bit of social change and discussion. Now our Kent Campus Center uses compostable silverware, and in general, it's started to cut back on their plastic usage by letting students bring in more of their reusable containers. So it's a really great example of how these classes that we're doing have real world applications that happen sometimes in the same semester in which we're discussing them and learning about them.
Definitely. And you're going to see some pictures coming up in future slides from the course that's Health at Every Size. And so I'll talk about that class when we get to those pictures. Another class I want to draw to your attention to is called Conspiracy Theories and Fake News. So we have a lot of students, including Natasha, that are interested in going into law school. I know Delaney, you mentioned that as well. That's going to be taught by one of our political science professors this fall. It coincides well for timing because of the presidential election coming up. But a lot of these classes are going to start in a repetition cycle as well. So we'll be continuing to develop new courses, but you'll start to see some of these classes repeat so that you'll have a chance to take these courses most likely during your 4 years here at Simpson as well. Ethics of neuroscience, that's one that a lot of my pre-med students are interested in. So Gabriella, maybe something, particularly if you're thinking anesthesiology is an option, that might pique your interest. But I have a lot of honor students that are not pre-med that are interested in taking that because it fulfills an ethics component of our general education requirement. So there's just another example of how our courses can cross over between the two programs, Gen Ed and honors, that is. So back to this SC 101 that I talked about, here are just a couple of examples of what the courses that we are running this fall, particularly for that first year entrance to college class for just our honor students. So we are fortunate enough that the program was popular enough for this fall's cohort that we have two groups. So one of our pre-med advisors, Dr. Subramanian, is teaching a biodesign course in the fall, and then our other section is being taught by our chair of our theater department, which is the healing power of theater. So in the biodesign course, they're going to be looking at sustainable designs for buildings in order to improve ecosystems. And then with the healing power of theater, that course is going to be looking at the role of arts and performing arts in particular in individuals that are in prisons. And so there is that crossover there again between, you know, maybe you would never think of yourself as someone interested in theater, but when you start to think about the implications for what's going on in prisons all across the country and how we help heal those individuals, it's a completely different way of thinking about something that you probably had never really thought about combining two topics for. Okay, so here are some of those pictures of the Health at Every Size course that I referred to. In this class, this was one that I taught. We started this semester by looking at some of the literature around body weight and how we define health, right? So you've probably all been weighed and measured at a doctor's office and you've received what's called a body mass index that basically just says, yes, you're in a healthy range, or no, you're not. So we talked about why that's used. We talked about the pros and the cons to using that. And then we kind of dove into a little bit more of the philosophical theories behind weight and body weight and changing that and why people want to change that and why we're so obsessed with weight in our culture. And then we went into theater. So then I had theater professors come in and they talked about casting members for a play when you're trying to match the best talent with a stereotypical image of what a certain character looks like. And what happens when those two don't match or they don't look the same. So enter costume design. So then our costume designer came into the course for a few days and she talked about how they use color and they use lighting and different elements on stage to be able to blend those two so that you get the best talent with that character. And then we went and we watched a play that was going on campus, Kiss Me Kate. And we actually tried to find everything that the costume designer pointed out to us. And then she came back to class and we had a conversation about that. So they had a different connection to the play rather than just going and watching it on their own. Then we went into a unit on art. And so we had 2 weeks where an art historian came in and talked to us about how the body originally as a form of art started way back in Greek and Roman history. And so we looked at different ancient works of art, but also into contemporary art and the use of the human figure and the body in art. And then we finished up with 4 weeks taught by an art instructor who taught the students how to draw the human body. None of these students were an art major when they started the course. I thought many of them were going to want to throw rocks at me or something when I told them that they were going to spend the last 4 weeks learning how to draw because they were astonished and shocked. But at the end of it, they absolutely loved it and they received their art credit for the general education program as well. So in the pictures, you see them taking time to learn to start to draw figures. And then their final project was having to draw a picture of themselves that depicted their inner and their outer selves. So as you can see, some of these drawings were pretty advanced, and they learned just how to pick up the pencil and start shading in areas at the beginning of the month. And 3.5 weeks into it, they were presenting these final projects. So it was incredible to see what they were able to accomplish in that short time frame. So that's just another example of kind of honors in action and what our courses look like, and a lot of action for change, both in the classroom and you really having an active role in your learning, but also action for change out in the community to really, in this example for this class, change the world and the way that you think about certain aspects of things that are going on in our world. Natasha, is there anything else that you want to add from the student perspective that we haven't touched on yet?
I don't know if there's anything in particular. I will say, as a student, especially looking at your senior year of high school, going into another honors program can look kind of daunting, but I just kind of want to reassure you that this program is very accessible. And I think Katie mentioned earlier in the presentation that these classes will fulfill your gen eds, and they'll just enrich your experience overall to make it a worthwhile system. I came into the honors program after it was actually created, so I had to kind of not scramble, but try to get those 5 courses in regardless, and I've been able to simply easily do that, as well as a lot of other students. So don't look at it as much as an add-on, but rather just an enrichment of the education that you'll get at Simpson.
Great point. And that reminds me too, I didn't talk much about the application process other than the eligibility components, but Natasha referred to the fact that she joined later, and that is always an option. I would say the downfall to it is that you don't have the option then of taking the honors SC 101 if you choose to bypass that up front. And so then you're going to have to find another course to fulfill that 5th honors requirement. Whereas if you decide, say you decide in December, you're coming to Simpson next year and you want to partake in the honors program, then when it comes time to register for you for that first year SC 101, then you're going to enroll in the honors section, and you kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone in that situation. Only honors students are able to take multiple honors classes. We allow any student on campus to take 1 course in the honors program, but then after that, they're done. This program is that you get priority registration. So when you are a sophomore, you are going to get the earliest time slots to register for courses among all of the sophomores. So you won't go ahead of the seniors, but you'll go ahead of all of the other sophomores that are not in the honors program. And for my students that are in the honors program, because many of them are looking at graduate school as their next phase, they're on a very time-specific schedule of when they need to take certain prerequisites. And so that's a very big perk for them to being in the program. As in addition to, how can I set myself apart in the application process? Whether or that's looking at a job for the future employer, right? Because everyone's going to have those same minimum requirements, whether you're applying to medical school, to law school, or to a job. And so what are you going to bring to the table that really sets you apart? And what our students are finding is that the skills and the ability to kind of think about these big picture questions in society that they're learning in these courses is something that's unique that they're able to bring out in their personal statements or in their interviews. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions from anyone that's here. You do see both Natasha and I's contact information on the screen here. You are welcome to contact us at any time with anything that you think about after this evening. But we'd love to hear from you now and kind of what you're thinking about and what questions you might have. And you can use the chat or you can unmute yourself, either one.
Yeah. Feel free to unmute, type it in the chat box. And I can also put their emails in the chat box if you just want to copy and paste.
Already taking notes, Gabriella. I love it. Dave or Kylie, maybe I'll start with a question to you guys. What are some questions that you received from prospective students about the honors program?
Dave, I'm going to let you take that.
Yeah, I think the biggest question I get is like, what's the benefit? I think you guys hit on that pretty well. Natasha, you spoke to that quite a bit too. So I think it's a great opportunity for students to really challenge themselves. And again, it's new enough that for you guys that are going to be entering college in the next year, which I think all of you are, it's an opportunity to, one, get involved, but two, also kind of make have a direct impact on how that program is going to look even later down the line. So I think that's something that's pretty cool and unique about Simpson's honors program.
Good point. Another question I get often is, do we have any type of honors housing? And that's sometimes common with other honors programs. And so right now, there's not necessarily a designated wing or a house that says this is where honors students live. And part of that is because we want you to have community outside of the honors program at Simpson, right? So if you are in the honors SC 101, then you're going to be taking a course that probably is going to meet 4 days a week with the other honors students, and you're going to be spending time with them those first few days after you move in before courses even start. So we want you to meet other students, first year students on campus, to be able to build that broader community. But that's not to say that you can't room with another honors student. So when you fill out your housing paperwork, there's an open-ended spot that you can contribute any other information that you would like about the ideal roommate. And you can say, I would like to room with another honors student. Oftentimes, honors students have similar study patterns, sleep patterns, seriousness about studying, things like that. And so they can make good roommates. I can tell you that there are quite a few students that are in the program as sophomores and juniors that weren't roomed together up at the first year, but they developed close relationships and are now roommates later on. So that's always a possibility as well too. So there's lots of different ways to go about the housing part of it.
Any questions at all for Natasha, Dr. Smith, me or Dave as admissions counselors? Oh, honors classes cost more than do the honors classes cost more than the regular classes? If so, do scholarships apply the same?
Great question. Yeah, no, that's a great question. No, honors classes are the exact same. So you register by credit, you don't register by the type of class. So you would register for a 4-credit honors class, the same as you would register for a 4-credit class that's not for honors. I say that you register the same, but actually it's slightly different in the fact that honors course registration isn't open to everyone on campus because we protect those seats to honors students first. So, but as far as costs, it's the exact same. I'm going to let Dave and Kylie speak to scholarship opportunities.
So every student that is admitted to Simpson will get some academic scholarship, typically based off of your GPA. And those scholarships absolutely are going to carry over for however many classes you're taking. A full-time student can take anywhere from 12 to 19 credits, and it's going to be the exact same cost. So if you take 12 credits and 19 credits, again, the price is not changing for you whatsoever. If you take 20 credits or more, that's when you get into an overload fee. But most students are going to take between 12 and 16 a semester, which is going to put you on track to graduate within that 4-year time frame. There are tons of different scholarships beyond just your merit-based scholarship. So if you're someone that's interested in politics or history or music or theater or speech and debate, you can audition or apply for those additional scholarships. They're all on our website. So again, if you're pretty serious about Simpson, definitely go on our website, go under the scholarships page and check those out because that's going to be a great opportunity to earn some additional financial aid to attend Simpson.
And I'll piggyback on that a little bit too, because some of our students have found interest areas beyond what they ever thought they would from their honors classes. So say, for example, our SC 101 this fall, the healing power of theater. You could find an enjoyment for theater, and then you end up registering for theater credits that make you eligible for the theater scholarship during the next year or something like that. I know another student of mine discovered a minor, a health and exercise science minor, or a philosophy minor, or a philosophy major because of a course that they took their first year that was part of the honors program. Delaney, to your question, yes, absolutely. They can work with 3 and 3 type programs, particularly when you choose to start the program right up front. And that's what we really encourage students that are in your guys' situation where you're coming into Simpson right out of high school, get enrolled in that SC 101 for honors, because you're going to have to take an SC 101 even if you're not in honors. And then it's only 4 classes that are left to be able to fit in your schedule, and they're likely going to fit into your general education plan anyway.
And Delaney, I will add, I work in the political science department with Professor Bardwell, and I will add too that the 3-3 program for law is also very flexible. So if that's something that you're interested in, you really shouldn't have to worry about making sure that those classes fit. It's pretty easy to get them in.
Great. Any last minute questions? You can send them to me privately as well if you don't want to ask them publicly. But feel free to type them in the chat box, either to the whole group or to me, or unmute yourself. And just a reminder that this is recorded and we will put it on our YouTube channel. So if you do want to, if you forget something that we talked about, you can watch it again, or you can reach out to Dr. Smith or Natasha or us. So plenty of opportunities to find this information again or get some more clarification and details from us in the future. But seeing that there's no additional questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for the night. Thank you all again for joining us. Thank you to Dr. Smith and Natasha for joining us tonight. I think it's always really helpful for prospective students to hear from current students. So we really appreciate you both being on here and taking the time. We will have more academic sessions this fall, so stay on the lookout for that via email and social media. We will be offering a virtual series exactly like this in the fall, focusing on specific academic departments. So be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, again, just stay in touch with us on social media. Feel free to call or email us at any time with any questions that you have. Otherwise, we look forward to helping you with your college search. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.